Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Okay, girls. Let's go get 'em.
Because no one thinks we have the balls to pull this off.
There's no place like home.
Hello and welcome to Girls on Film, the film review show from a female perspective. My name's Anna Smith. I'm a film critic, broadcaster and host to the podcast Girls on Film. And this is our second episode with the BFI on YouTube. Girls on Film champions the work of women in film. My guests range from female filmmakers and composers and critics to actors and activists, and we look at films from all ages through a female lens. Today we're celebrating female directors, and I have got some amazing guests for you. Writer-director Desiree Akhavan reveals which scene she's most proud of in her work.
That is my favorite thing I've ever filmed, hands down.
Director Nisha Ganatra talks about her new movie The High Note, starring Dakota Johnson and Tracy Ellis Ross.
It's really fun to be in the music industry. It's really fun to be in the film industry. And these movies really celebrate that.
Actor Monica Dolan talks about the wonderful women of westerns.
Doris Day can do no wrong in my book.
And we welcome our second ever man onto Girls on Film, writer, director and film critic Mark Cousins.
We haven't seen the great work.
Mark has made an epic 14-hour-long series called Women Make Film, a new road movie through cinema. You can watch it on the BFI player now, and it celebrates the work of extraordinary female directors. I want to recommend 3 of my favourite gems from female directors that are available on the BFI player to watch at home now. First up is Toni Erdmann. Maren Ade's film is a comedy and it's a long one, but it's got moments of absolute hilarity in it and it's worth sticking with it. Sandra Hüller plays a woman who's visited by her father, a bit of a prankster, and he likes to surprise her dressing up in disguise when she's trying to work. My second choice is Fish Tank. Coming from director Andrea Arnold, it's a touching, funny, darkly comic coming-of-age story starring Katie Jarvis and a young Michael Fassbender. This vivid drama established Andrea Arnold as a director to watch. My third choice is The Arbor. Directed by Clio Barnard, this documentary tells the story of Andrea Dunbar, who wrote the brilliant film Rita Sue and Bob 2. Like her characters, Dunbar lived on a council estate in Bradford. Director Clio Barnard does something very interesting with this film. She films actors lip-syncing to the voices of Dunbar's real family. It's mesmerising stuff. You can watch all those films on the BFI player at home now. During lockdown, the BFI is working harder than ever to bring you films you can watch at home. If you're enjoying the show, then please support the BFI by donating £5. You can text BFI at home to 70085. Text costs £5 plus 1 standard message rate. Thanks for your support. My first guest is a brilliant actress who appeared in the film The Arbor, as well as other brilliant films like Never Let Me Go, The Falling and Sightseers. She's now taking the lead in a film called Days of the Bagnold Summer, which is directed by the In-Betweeners Simon Bird. She is Monica Dolan. So Monica Dolan, welcome to Girls on Film at the BFI.
Thank you, Anna. It's really exciting to be here.
Oh, well, I'm a big fan of your latest film, Days of the Bagnold Summer. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It's a wonderful portrait of a struggling mother, and it's a kind of character who's normally the supporting role, let's face it, and it's so wonderful to see her right at the centre of the film. What did you like about the role?
Well, I think the thing that I love about the whole film and the two characters is that they're both introverts, and it's very unusual to see a film where both the central characters are introverts.
I hadn't thought of that. That's so true.
Yeah. And there's so much heroism in that, actually. With Sue, she's a librarian, she's a single mum, and she's sort of one of those heroes, really, who's kind of taken for granted, but actually she's sort of the bedrock of our relationships, I think, really.
I don't know why I just can't wait until I'm back.
Because you'll be jet-lagged and won't want to come into town, and you'll end up with no shoes to wear to the wedding. You know, what about those?
No.
What's wrong with them?
Horrible.
What's horrible about them?
Everything.
It's just a basic black shoe, isn't it?
Exactly.
I can't get anything right.
You could let me wear my trainers.
You're not wearing your trainers.
Why not? They're black.
Hardly. Tippexed all over with that awful morbid rubbish.
It's not rubbish. It's Metallica.
It's not appropriate for a wedding.
It's poetry. People read poems at weddings. Why don't I get some new trainers then?
You are wearing proper shoes to this wedding.
A wedding of two people I've never even met.
You have met them, actually, Daniel. When you were 2, Judith saved you from choking on a grape.
There's so much humour in her, and she's understated, but yeah, there's a lot of inner life in there. It's based on the graphic novel by Geoff Winterhart. So that's vignettes, and it's in pictures. We did 3 showings at the London Film Festival, so it's great that it's been in a cinema. And I don't know if the word had got round, but by the time the film was shown for the last time, the audience was full of sort of women my age, and I think certainly unprecedented for me. All of the questions at the Q&A came from women my age, and we had a queue of people coming to talk to us afterwards, to talk to Simon and I. And one woman came up to me, gave me a big hug, and said, "Thank you so much for, I'm a librarian, and thank you so much for representing me on the screen. I don't get to see myself." So yeah, I'm just really delighted in it, the way that it's connected with people, and that she's connected with people.
So when you were growing up, what female film characters appealed to you? I asked you in advance about this, and you came up with a couple of really interesting ones.
Well, yeah, I think because my main film environment at home was Westerns, and my father was really into Westerns, and my brother, I was completely elated to see Calamity Jane, for one, Doris Day playing Calamity Jane, and also the film True Grit, the original film, came out in 1969 with John Wayne. They were mad on John Wayne films, and I remember this film True Grit was on, and I said to my brother, is there a girl in the film? And he went, "Well, there's a girl in it, yeah." And then I watched the film, and she was completely the emotional centre of this film. She was the star of it. So she's just really heroic and determined, and never had any sense that she wouldn't succeed. But yeah, I mean, certainly in my household, it felt like an absolute triumph that this young girl was the centre of this Western.
And Calamity Jane, let's go back to that one. We reviewed that actually in episode 22 of Girls on Film, which was a musical special. And I'm a big fan of it. And again, like you, when I was growing up, to see that character on screen, just so empowering, actually, and very funny as well. Tell me more about why you love it.
I think it's just the life that she brings to it, and she completely changes throughout the film. And also, I think it's so much about a female friendship as well. It's just so exciting to see a person who's so whole, and the softness in themselves, and the what would you say, that passion in themselves, and their sort of aggressive nature as well and active nature is just so thoroughly explored. And she's just such a whole person, and such a huge personality. Doris Day can do no wrong in my book.
Here's a man the sheriff watches. On his gun there's more than 27 notches. On the draw there's no one faster, and you're flirting with disaster when Bill Hickok's reputation you malign. And I'm glad to say he's a very good friend of a friend of mine.
And talking of fantastic performances, you also singled out Katharine Hepburn in The African Queen.
Oh yeah, I think if I had to pick a favourite film, I think The African Queen is probably my favourite. I mean, it's all about relationships, isn't it?
Yeah.
And she's the motivating force. It's so funny, but it's all about determination as well, and not giving up, and seeing a glimmer of hope. And I mean, my favourite 3 words that a man can say to me are "You're the boss." So I just love that she has such incredible, what would you say, leadership skills.
Yeah.
And I mean, what an actress, what an incredible performer.
Phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal. Well, listen, I'm a big fan of lots of your work, including in Alan Partridge Alpha Papa, where you play Alan's love interest. And I'm interested to touch on that, the fact that his previous on-screen girlfriend was supposed to be 14 years younger than him, and their relationship didn't seem very equal, whereas I really loved the fact that in Alpha Papa, he feels like he sort of met his match, and you're his intellectual superior, really. But
that's probably not hard with Alan Park.
No, exactly. But I really loved the dynamic. Could you speak a bit to that and the kind of conversations you had?
Yeah, I think that maybe, sometimes there are certain go-to scenarios that perhaps male writers might think of straight away. And those writers were terrific. It became very clear that the way that it was going to work writing-wise was that they were going to pick up on what I was doing, and that then from the scene that they had written, I would pick up on what they were doing, and then we could create the next things as we went along. But one of the twins came and really made himself very vulnerable and just said, look, we recognise that we could just have her being the jump off point for all of Alan's antics, and she could just be all the feed lines, and that's not what we want, and we can see that that's not what you want. So I think they could see that there were scenarios that I just wasn't going to be interested in, and they respected that. So yeah.
Well, bravo. I had a feeling you might have had quite a strong hand in that, so well done,
The thing is, if it's improvisation, if it's coming from improvisation, you can always have a hand in it. And I would say that rule number 1 is to be there. Be there in rehearsal. If there's anything with the script, then say something. With Bagnold as well, right at the beginning. Here's the book. Here are my post-it notes that I took to Simon, and I said, I think there could be more of this or more of that. And luckily he was open too. And, we're all part of the creative process, and really everyone, unless they're sort of some egotistical tyrant, everyone wants to make it better. So, it's your job to contribute. I see my job as to contribute. I'm not just there to please people. I'm good at all. I'm there to make the work as good as it can be, how I see it. So,
well, you've worked with female directors, obviously, like Carol Morley in The Falling, which I love. Do you have any kind of sense that women direct differently? Is that a terrible cliche?
I only think in terms of people directing well or badly, and somebody directs well if they have a rounded sense of humanity, I think. And if there's, I'd like to work with more female directors. I'd like there to be more of them, definitely. Yeah. I'd like female directors to be more acknowledged. I have experienced it, unfortunately, where I've been sent my CV to approve it, and the female directors have been airbrushed out of it, and I've written back and said, no, these are important directors, and I couldn't see any reason why they'd not been included at all.
Did they recognise that was the nature of their bias when you pointed it out? Do you think it was conscious?
It's really difficult to say whether it was conscious or not, but the fact was it was there. And I think that I would urge female actors and writers and, just creatives everywhere to, male or female, to notice the absence of things as well as noticing what's there. Notice how things are being loaded or how things are being said, and what's not being said, because that can be where the prejudice manifests itself, actually.
Very well said. Very well said. It's worth examining all these things. And congrats again on Days of the Bagnold Summer. And do come back on Girls on Film again sometime. We'd love to have you.
Oh, that's really nice of you. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks
a lot. Bye. That was Monica Dolan, and you can watch Days of the Bagnold Summer on digital from June the 8th. My next guest is a groundbreaking female filmmaker. She also wrote and starred in Appropriate Behaviour, which is the story of an Iranian-American woman coming out as bisexual. Her next film was The Miseducation of Cameron Post. She directed that, and it stars Chloe Grace Moretz. You might have seen her on TV in The Bisexual with Maxine Peake. She is Desiree Akhavan. Oh, Desiree, it is such a pleasure to have you on Girls on Film. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Oh, well,
in my own home.
In your own home. And you're in New York right now, right? Yes, yeah.
I'm in Brooklyn.
As you know, I am a huge fan of your work. And the Miseducation of Cameron Post actually inside a piece I wrote for The Guardian about lesbian sex. Could you speak a little about directing those scenes and your kind of thought processes about how those scenes colour the characters?
So with a sex scene, I think it's, as a viewer, I want it to be subjective rather than objective. I think you should be in the point of view of the characters. I think there should be a reason you're watching them fuck. So with Cameron Post, it was important to be in the shoes of those girls. And when it comes to the writing of it, the question is, okay, what am I learning in this scene about this character? Why is this scene here? And what part of her development is she at? What happens before, during, and after? But then in the execution of it, to me, it's very much about reading the room. It's like sometimes you want that vulnerability of the first time someone touches you. And then other times you want to feel like, oh, we know each other's bodies really well. Like John Dalgleish and I did a lot of work together in The Bisexual. And by the end of that shoot, his body was really familiar to mine. I felt very comfortable with him. But with Cameron Post, what was so new for me is I had never not been in my own sex scene. And the first scene that we did together, myself and Chloe, and I remember really feeling that Chloe did not want to be backseat driven, that she knew where her body should be. And so when it came to shooting the first actual sex scene, I didn't say anything. It was the scene in the car park at the opening of the film where she and Quinn have sex in the back of the car. And my AD was like, well, here's your set. And it was the car and all these lights around and all these people, and Video Village was like a stone's throw away. It was all kind of like claustrophobic. And I remember thinking, that's not how these girls should do their first sex scene. Like, this just isn't conducive to intimacy. So I cleared the set and I didn't watch a rehearsal. I didn't tell Chloe and Quinn anything. I said, you know the script, surprise me, and I'll give notes. We'll stage this after the first take, but why don't, for shits and giggles, we just do it? And that first take was what's in the film.
But your sensitivity is clearly hugely important to making that work, and your empathy with the actresses. How do you feel about men directing sex scenes, particularly those featuring two women? I think I may know the answer to this, but you tell me.
Well, first off, it's hard to have this like sweeping generalization. Basically, I've told a very long story that said, I read the room. But let's talk in sweeping generalizations, because that's what interviews do anyway. So, I mean, I feel like we're dancing around blue is the warmest color, which is the biggest example any of us have. There are so few films out there of lesbian love that hit the mainstream the way that Blue is the Warmest Color did, and get the kind of critical acclaim, but also pop culture, like, resonance that Blue is the Warmest Color had. And when I talk about objective versus subjective sex scenes, that's very much in my head.
It's like it came from a totally different film, I felt. Suddenly, you're in this really weird, unrealistic,
it came from someone who had never fucked a woman as a woman. That's what it came from. And sex scenes are so important that it can completely nullify an otherwise really powerful movie. And that's what I was saying about objective versus subjective. That is an objective sex scene. I feel like the thesis statement of the Blue is the Warmest Color sex scene is, how do women fuck? Like, is it just kind of they rub against each other? Is it a scissor thing? Is it a hand thing? What do we like very technically, like, how do we qualify? How do we classify? How do we identify lesbian sex from the perspective of a cis straight man of just being like, I just don't get it. Let me show you it can be legitimate. And I'll show you from a like really far back, locked down, wide shot, that never gives you a sense of where either of their emotional journeys are at, never gives you a before, middle, or ending, just shows you factually what their bodies are doing.
Let's move on to Appropriate Behaviour, which I loved, in which you also star. The threesome scene is actually used as an example in this Women Make film by Mark Cousins, which is a fantastic thing, which we're talking about elsewhere in this show. The line about the olives in particular, they singled out as an example of economy in comedy.
I'm like one bad romantic encounter away from moving to France and changing my identity.
Do you want an olive?
No, I'm okay. But maybe I should go to like a less glamorous place like Slovenia or something where my chances of popularity would be greater.
They're really good.
I'm okay.
Would you like some wine?
Yeah. Why are you giggling?
I've been plotting on how to get you to eat one of these olives because they're covered in garlic and we've already had some.
Oh.
I guess it's sort of an all or nothing kind of thing.
Problem solved.
Can you talk us through a little bit about the background to that scene and any thinking you had regards to economy, whether you do think or whether it's instinctive?
I think economy comes with rewriting. And then with each pass you go through and you consolidate and you say, what is the most efficient way to use time? And how do I communicate this exposition while communicating tone, while communicating the absurdity of the situation, and also have like a bit of honesty and emotional like truth. I also want to credit Cecilia Frugiuele, who is my writing and producing partner. I get credited for a lot of the work she does. And I think it's about like for years with each project, just like what like the olive thing is, you know, a really good example, I think, of trying to communicate 40 things at once. So the olive scene, like we were just tired. It was just the admin of doing things, whatever. Like that was just another scene we shot. But when we shot the actual threesome, that is my favorite thing I've ever filmed.
Well,
hands down, that threesome scene.
Talk to us a little bit about filming that scene and how how that all went, or the inspiration, if that's more interesting.
For the scene. Oof, I don't know if I can get the inspiration.
Maybe that's too personal.
I've never spoken about that scene in that respect, but I will say, okay, I'll say this: I've never had such a clear trajectory of like intention to product. And that threesome sequence is just one of those things, like very rarely, that you have in your head and you execute, and it's even better than you could have imagined.
You should show her your latex outfit.
You have a latex outfit?
Yeah. Yeah, I have to oil up to put it on.
Wow. Yeah, please put that on. I would watch like the first take of every setup so I could look at the frame when we did that film. We shot it really quickly, so there wasn't a lot of time to review performance. So I watched the first take and then I excused myself and I just had a complete meltdown in the bathroom. I remember thinking, you've gone too far. Like, this is pornography. This is gross. You're gonna like really shame yourself in front of your family. And you will never live this down. Like I just had like a huge, just like, you know, when the reality of the situation, like you're aspiring to something and it was my first film shoot, but also it's like, this could be a huge mess. And when I watched the first take of that threesome, I was like, you've gone too far. And in trying to communicate something really vulnerable and really personal and really shameful, instead of making it art, you've made it gratuitous and like, fuck. And then my producer, writing partner, Cecilia, knocked on the door and she was like, trust me, you've got this. And the truth is, I don't love Appropriate Behavior. I think it's messy. If I could go back, if I could, like when I watch it now, it makes me cringe. But when I watch that threesome, I'm like, you had it. Like that is why you do what you do.
Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. And what a wonderful lesson to learn. Is there anything else you want to share with the Girls on Film viewers?
I want to give love to people and say, like, I spend so much of this quarantine, like, going into various downward spirals. And if anyone's watching and they're feeling heartbroken, you're not alone. Put some music on and dance, take a bath. There are some rituals that have really helped me, but then also sometimes it's a lot about like facing your sadness and facing your pain. And like, I spent a lot of this time facing pain. I know this is like not about film and it's super emo, but I would like to put out like a rally cry to film nerds out there and say like, you know, we're all connected by this love of cinema, and there's so much vulnerability right now, and I'm finding so much solace in movies, and it definitely my religion. It's like watching and thinking and making, and whoever's watching and thinking and making, like, my heart's with you.
Well, that's lovely. Thank you so much for joining Girls on Film, Desiree. Hope we speak to you again soon. Thanks a lot.
Me too.
We launched Girls on Film to amplify female voices, but we also welcome allies and supporters, including directors who make wonderful films about women. One of those was Bo Burnham, who joined us on episode 10 of the podcast to talk about the brilliant film 8th Grade. Another is Mark Cousins, who joins me now to talk about Women Make Film. Mark, welcome to Girls on Film. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Anna.
Congratulations on being the second man ever to be invited onto Girls on Film. We do make exceptions for allies, which I think you definitely qualify as after making Women Make Film. It is an extraordinary piece of work. It functions beautifully as a guide to the art of cinema, as well as a tribute to so many talented filmmakers. Can you talk to us a little bit about what inspired you to make it and why in this particular style?
I was inspired by making a mistake. In the mid-90s, we did a big season about the great moments in documentary history. And when I looked back at it, Anna, I realised there was only one woman in it. It was Barbara Koppel. And this was 1996, I think. And I thought, well, I'm not going to make that mistake again. And from then, I started asking, where are the women on these lists? Where are the women in the canon? Where are they? And when we do the national surveys of Polish cinema or Romanian cinema, etc. And once you're curious, once you've got an inquiring mind about a subject, you know, you keep going. And I kept going. And so for that several decades now, I just kept adding to the list of films that I'd seen and fallen in love with.
Most films have been directed by men. Most of the recognized so-called movie classics were directed by men. For 13 decades, and on all 6 filmmaking continents, thousands of women have been directing films too. Some of the best films. What movies did they make? What techniques did they use? What can we learn about cinema from them?
Watching it makes you want to scribble down the name of so many films. I mean, I've got a feminist film podcast, but there's still so many films that I hadn't seen that you'd unearthed, these absolute gems. And, you know, I sort of run out of space on the notepad, but I believe people can find out the list of the films on the website. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a website called womenmakefilm.net, and what we haven't, because this film's showing around the world, we haven't written any text in English because people in India will hopefully look at it, etc. So what we've done instead is a visual representation of every film, a grab of a key moment from the film. So if you see something and you think, oh, that looks good, I must find out what that is, then you can go to the website and find the image, click on it, and you find out more about who the director was, etc.
And let's talk a little bit about your narrators, because you've got some fantastic women here. How did you select them, and how did you allocate who to what chapter? Because their voices seem to work really well with the subject matter.
So the first criterion had to be that they're really credible women. They've done creative work in the film industry, and you can't sort of get better than Jane Fonda and Tilda Swinton and Kerry Fox, etc. The second one was, you know, because this film wasn't talking about the female gaze or the male gaze at all. It was a sort of non-binary thing. The film wasn't getting into any generalizations about how women look. Then I was very interested in working with women who, in their careers in cinema, had challenged gender stereotypes. And who more so than Tilda Swinton and her androgyny? Who more so than Adjoa Andoh, who did that brilliant all-female Shakespeare? Who more so than Deborah Winger, with that voice? And so all these women had evinced and ploughed a career in cinema, evinced an idea that gender isn't easy to define, and that made them fantastic collaborators.
Now, Tilda Swinton, I believe, was involved in the exact naming of this. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. The film started to be, its first title was Eye Opener. We weren't going to mention that it was about women at all. We thought we would just let people watch it, and after 20 minutes or 30 or 40 minutes realize that all the clips were women. And I think that actually would have been fun, but it might have also been, trying to be too tricky, So the second title was Women Making Film. And then when Tilda watched it, I sent her a link to it, and I think within 14 minutes, she texted back saying, I'm in. And at that point, she said, why don't we call it Women Make Film rather than Women Making Film? And I really liked that because it's more of an exhortation. It's more a sort of challenge. It's a gauntlet thrown down.
And you mentioned that it is true that while you're watching it, you sort of forget that this is about women filmmakers. You just get absorbed in it, thinking this is an incredible film school, and it's such a fascinating insight into how cinema is made. And that seems to me like a very elegant way of making a simple point. Were you keen not to be too obvious about it and to do it in that way that just kind of creeps up on people?
Yes, I mean, we were really keen to challenge the received opinions, to be honest, Anna. I've heard over the years loads of people say Catherine Bigelow makes films like a man, or women tend to make films about children or relationships. The more you look, as you know, and the more you find that's not true. Probably the best war film was made by a woman, some of the great epics, some of the great history films. And so, if you're curious about what you don't know, and if you go in with an open mind to a subject, like what really have women done from the birth of cinema to the present day, and if you don't go in with too many received opinions or expectations, then it's a plenitude.
You've mentioned in the middle making of documentary about a revolution happening in film. Are you hopeful about a more gender-balanced future in film, more recognition for female directors?
Absolutely. I'm all for 50-50. I'm more for, I have to say, 70-30 or something like that, But bring it on. I mean, and yes, of course, women will make shit films, but men have made shit films all our lives. We need to force change through the industry, and thankfully it's happening in certain countries. But I think part of the spirit of that change, part of the kind of ethos, part of the rocket fuel of that change will be knowing on whose shoulders we stand. And we can't fully articulate a vision for women in cinema if we haven't seen the great work. If you don't know that Kira Muratova is as great as Martin Scorsese, if you don't know the work of Binka Zhelyazkova, then you find that you're making an argument that isn't rich enough. If we can say, look, despite the sexism of the industry, women have already made masterpieces throughout film history, then that enriches our argument. It makes it compelling.
What's next for the film?
So for the film, it's delighted. It's going around the world. It's sold to many countries, including surprising countries like China and India and Russia. And it seems to have hit a moment. It started before Weinstein, etc., but it seems to have hit a zeitgeist moment. So it's going everywhere. And lots of countries are doing really big seasons, like buying scores of films or even hundreds of films directed by women to tie in. I think the country in which we're sitting, UK, has not done that. And so that's a question about our culture, I think. But most other countries who have bought the film have gone substantially with it.
Well, we can't wait to see what you do next. And thank you so much for doing Women Make Film. It's a wonderful piece of work. Thank you.
Bye.
My final guest is a female filmmaker who's broken into Hollywood. She worked with Emma Thompson in Late Night, and now she's working with Diana Ross's daughter in the film The High Note. She is Nisha Ganatra. Hello, Nisha. We are absolutely thrilled to have you on this show. Like Late Night, The High Note is such an entertaining film, written by a woman, directed by a woman, starring two working women, diverse cast of different ages. Congratulations. It's what we love to celebrate on Girls on Film.
Oh, thank you so much. It's what I love to direct.
Well,
so
I can tell, and you do it very well. So like Late Night as well, this looks at professional relationships between an older woman and a younger woman. Why is that something in particular you're interested in portraying?
I guess I didn't look at it so much like an older woman, younger woman, but more like the sort of unique, fun thing about our industry, I think, is that we grow up as fans, right? Like watching these women and admiring them. And then one day we get a little bit closer to like working in the same field as them. And then one day you're on set directing them or working with them or collaborating with them. And I think it's just a unique joy of our industry. That, you know, like if I had told 10 or 12-year-old Nisha that one day she was going to direct Emma Thompson or be on set with like Tracy Ellis Ross, it was like not in a million years would I believe that, you know? And so I think there's just this really fun aspect of, it's really fun to be a musician. It's really fun to be in the music industry. It's really fun to be in the film industry and in television. And these movies really celebrate that. You know, I think there's so many times we see movies about musicians and music stars and it gets pretty dark and sad, and this one is really just celebrating the fun and joy and hard work of our industries. And so I think to me it was just that aspect of being somebody who is outside so desperately wanting to be into some industry that wants very little or nothing to do with you.
Which of course Dakota Johnson's character is as an assistant, and trying to be a producer, A lot of people will relate to that, of trying to kind of get a leg up in an industry.
I grew up around music. It's my whole world.
Got one more song for y'all tonight.
If you told 12-year-old me that one day I'd be working for Grace Davis, she's an icon. You okay?
Do I not look okay?
No, you look great. Amazing. What am I supposed to say to her? I'm just a personal assistant, but I'd love to produce your music.
In the history of music, only 5 women over 40 have ever had a #1 hit. And only one of them was black.
It's not over for you.
There's a really striking scene where, as Grace, Tracy Ellis Ross, makes a statement about how only 5 women over 40 have ever had a #1 hit and only one is black. What an astonishing statistic. And have you found that a lot of people have actually been surprised to learn that through your film?
Yeah, people are really surprised to learn that. And I think it's, you know, what you were saying before about like younger women, older women, there is something so important about both movies with that too, is that there was that first generation of women that were asked to make incredible sacrifices and what they gave up in order to sort of break the ground for us, and how we come in with this sort of attitude of like, you know, forgetting how much they went through and what their sacrifices were, so that it was a little easier for us. And even though it's not easier really for Maggie or for Mindy Kaling's character in both movies, because there's still sexism, basically, it is easier in the sense that somebody paved the way and can mentor us. So to me, I think the thing I'm interested in with the older generation of women and the younger generation of women is how we can be each other's best allies, or we could be each other's worst enemies. And I think both movies are really encouraging everybody to be each other's best allies.
I love how both female characters go on a journey to that end throughout the film, without giving too much away, but it's something we love to celebrate. Collaboration on Girls on Film, so bravo.
Yes.
And talking of the sexism, just to go back to that, there's a scene I really enjoyed in The High Note where a supposedly hotshot male producer rather patronisingly invites Dakota Johnson's character to sit in on a session, saying he likes to raise women up.
Yes, that was Diplo. That was Diplo himself playing
exactly.
Yeah, he was really funny. He also improvised, you know, because right after he says, it's important to me to raise women up, he goes, come on in here, sweetheart.
Yeah.
And it's just like it just really encapsulated it all in this one kind of ridiculous character.
Well, that's it, because, you know, we're always talking about how allies are important, but do you think, like, on a serious note, that sometimes there is a bit of box ticking that goes on by some of the men in the industry? And if so, what actually affects real change rather than that kind of tokenism?
I guess there was, in the beginning, this idea that, like, well, women don't have the experience and they don't have the knowledge, but we've come to realize that was never true, right? So now it's just, they do have the knowledge, they do have the capability. The thing we don't have is the job. So it really is just hire them, give them the job, give us the job. And then that's it. It's no more committees about what to do about this problem, and committees about like diversity and committees about gender equality and gender parity. It's just do it. Just hire women.
I love that, because so often myself and other people go, oh, well, it's a really complicated answer, but you've just said, no, it's simple. Hire more women. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's not really complicated.
You're so right. It is simple. Do it.
And then it solves the problem actually for generations, because then if you hire women, guess what? They get more experience, and then they become higher level, and then they can hire other women. And so it really will just end the whole problem if we just start there.
Now, female directors, there are some amazing female directors that perhaps some of our viewers don't even know their work. Are there any that have inspired you? Who would you recommend that we check out?
Oh my God, so many. How do I even start? Well, you know, obviously Lynn Ramsey and her visual style is incredible. Deborah Granick for how she directs actors and is so truthful with her storytelling. Kelly Reichardt, who makes really beautiful, small, independent films that will just blow you away. Lynn Shelton, of course, was always somebody whose movies I had loved and watched. And Agnes Varda, if we go back, you know, Jane Campion, of course, I always watched her. Mira Nair, Julie Dash, Janet Livingston, Maria Magenti. I'm just trying to think of all Tamara Jenkins.
This is a wonderful list. I'm loving this list. It's fantastic. I couldn't agree more with all of them. If anyone were to pay tribute to Lynn Shelton and watch one of her movies, which one would you recommend? Yeah.
Lynn Shelton.
Very sad news about her passing.
So sad.
Yeah.
It is really sad. I just still haven't processed it. I mean, I know Hump Day was the one that got her attention at Sundance, but I always liked Laggies, and I just liked, and even her latest one, all of her movies have such a unique characters, and they have a real freedom to them, and it's just a flowing that, you know, she's just there guiding gently, but also allowing room for people to make up things on the spot. And it just, all of her movies have such a joyful feeling to them. I think any of them would be great for now.
And what is next for you? Because we can't wait to see what you do next, if you're allowed to reveal it.
God, what is next for me? Well, I'm back in television, hopefully with a bigger role, like creating a show, which I'm very excited about. And, you know, still reading scripts. It's hard to find the next movie you want to make. But the cool thing is there are some bigger franchises that are looking at women directors. And it was something interesting to me because I didn't ever allow myself to dream that way. I think that I just had closed that door in my mind without realizing it. And then now there are all these incredible, powerful women running these studios. And so when Donna Langley or Liz Raposo or these fantastic women who are incredible artists say, hey, there's a female director and why can't she do one of these big franchise films? It really just lifts you up in a way that you're like, oh yeah, I could do that. So I'm kind of looking at those too and thinking closely about which ones.
Ooh, so might you be doing a superhero movie or anything like that?
I mean, I've always loved the Marvel movies. I even love some of those DC comic actors, action movies. Yeah, there's like the Transformers franchise. There's so many different, like, really fun.
I'd love to see what a woman would do with the Transformers. That would be really interesting.
Right? Yeah, I know.
Different spin, I think.
I think they tried really hard to find a woman to direct Bumblebee, and just, but now there's so many more women just vying for it. So it's pretty exciting.
Was there anything else you wanted to leave the Girls on Film viewers with about The High Note?
I think The High Note is a movie that celebrates women taking risks, and it rewards women for taking risks. So I hope the movie inspires everybody to just follow their dreams and take big risks, because, especially now, if not now, when? I think we're all sitting at a time where we're like, why have I been playing it safe ever in my whole life? And now's the time. Just go for your dream.
Thank you for sharing your positivity about that.
Thank you for your kind words.
That was Nisha Ganatra, and if you like the sound of The High Note, you can rent it at home from May the 29th. Thank you for watching Girls on Film with me, Anna Smith. If you enjoyed the show, then check out the podcast. You can see it on your usual pod app, and the link is below the screen right here. There are 35 episodes of fun feminist film chat for you to catch up on. We've had guests like Maxine Peake, Amara Sante, Linda Hamilton, Carey Mulligan, and we always have fab female film critics talking about the latest releases that you can watch at home. Do follow us on Twitter at girlsonfilm_pod, and don't forget to come back here on June the 23rd, where we'll have our next show with the BFI. Thanks to Heather Archbold from HLA for producing, and to the BFI for having us. Don't forget you can support the BFI by texting BFI at home to 70085. Text costs £5 plus your usual message rate. Thanks for your support.